Good afternoon, folks. I'm Dan. Another little builder basics. Wanted to talk about plans today, and it overlaps in how you choose the aircraft you want to build. And I was just going to share a little bit about my choices that I've made over the years and how I kind of ended up building the 701, and just kind of go over that, maybe give you some ideas and help you make a better informed decision if you haven't started your airplane yet, or maybe help you get a little bit more focused on the build you've already got going. I'm, as we know, building a 701. The first set of plans I bought were for a WAG Aero Sport Trainer. I started on that. I've got a complete set of wing ribs built for that airplane, and they're sitting all tucked away in the shop, and maybe we'll get back to building that airplane. We'll see. That was actually my choice when I first started out because it was a pretty well-known design and relatively inexpensive aircraft. And I think it was a good choice. I would like to eventually build that airplane. At that time, it turned out not to be a good choice, and the main reason was for materials. Materials, it's a tube and fabric aircraft, wood wing ribs and spars. Relatively inexpensive way of building. The downside to it for me as a scratch builder, why I buy pieces at a time. You know, I'm not buying a tremendous amount of any one material at one time. And at that time, I did not have a good, reliable source, local source to source tubing. So consequently, my tubing had to come in on truck or freighted in. So if you're piecing things together and not ordering all your tubing at once, that gets to be real expensive when you're doing that. Even though the tubing was relatively inexpensive, the freight to get it here was really cost prohibitive. Good choice, relatively inexpensive airplane. But anyway, the plans for it are from WAG Aero, and I looked, they still offer the plans. And their sport trainer, let's see if we can get it opened up here. There. This set of plans here, and from looking at the website, and I bought these probably back about 2000. I've got two sets of plans here that I bought about 2000. And looking at the website there, it's 15 pages of plans, and it's very well. And there's two full-size wing rib templates for that too that I'll show you. To me, very much reminds me of the balsa wood kits that we bought, the plans that we got, you know, when we were younger, or maybe not so much younger. This is very reminiscent of those. It reminds me of that almost exactly. You know, it's a grown-up copy of those plans. And when you get those plans, these are the templates. I don't know if how well they're going to show up, but there's two sheets, tip ribs, and then there's the full-size ribs. So two fold-out sheets of those. They're a very basic set of plans. As far as support from WAG Aero, I don't know how much there is. I never really dealt with them enough. I bought a few pieces from them, but there's not enough there to really that I can give you a good idea about what their support's going to be. And as a plans builder or a scratch builder, that's going to be a big thing, is how much support you get, and if there is any support for it, and if you need any support for it. So those are all things to take into consideration. The other set of plans that I have here, and I didn't bring my Zenith plans out because we all kind of know about the Zenith plans. That's kind of what this is all focused around. The other set of plans that I've got here is a set of Midget Mustang plans from Bushby Aircraft, which now it's owned by Mustang Aeronautics. Chris Heinemann's the owner. This is a fairly substantial set of plans. I think there's about 36, 38 full-size sheets like this right here. And there again, none of them really show up that well. This is the main spar section here on this sheet. And is it gonna, that kind of gives you an idea of what they are. Their plans are pretty detailed. They've got all our dimensions. They've got fairly good documentation with the builder's material that originally came with the plans themselves. Fair amount of documentation. I think as a scratch builder, it's not a really it's a difficult build, but it's not, the plans are very good plans, I guess is what I'm saying. Very buildable. I don't see a problem. Well, I know there's not a problem with them because I've looked at them before. I do have the M1A canopy supplement for these that shows how to build the P51 style canopy with it. They've got some fold outs for the larger bulkheads. So it's a lot of information here, does a real good job on the layout. I've not looked, these are an older set of plans. These plans I bought way back in 2000. They were a used set of plans. They're a legal serial numbered set of plans. And eventually this aircraft will be on my workbench. I will be working on this airplane here. Probably not this next airplane, but it will. This is definitely a set that, and I have some parts for this already built. It's a quite a bit more involved airplane than the Zenith series of aircraft. It's not a complex aircraft, but when we compare it to the Zenith airplanes, there's quite a bit more involved to building it. So the support on this, for this airplane, I think is terrible. If the only way that I would even begin to build this airplane is as a plans builder, I would not kit build this at all, because it's become I guess basically a one-man operation from what I'm hearing as I follow the builders groups for it. I really like the aircraft. It's the little sports car for airplanes, I think, for me anyway. And I think it's really a neat plane. I would not even begin to think about ordering a kit for it because delivery times have been exceptionally slow. Getting replacement parts or anything you need for a kit, from what I understand, has been extremely slow. And this is all fairly common knowledge on the builders groups, anybody that follows this. And if you follow the different aircraft forums, why, you can get a good idea for what is a good aircraft to build and which ones you may want to avoid, you know, because of some of the pitfalls of them, such as factory support. The plane is fairly well documented. It's quite a bit more complex plane, material-wise and building-wise, compared to a Zenith aircraft. So, you know, it may not be a good first project, which is actually why I backed away from it when I bought the plans, after I'd looked it over and thought, this is really a cool airplane, this is what I'd like to build. Why, at that time, it was probably beyond my abilities, and it was just not a good fit for me at that time. I was originally going to build a 601. They had a few issues with that plane, and I think it was mainly builder issues rather than airplane issues, and since then that plane has evolved into the 650, which has, I think they'd resolved any issues that we had with the 601. We all want to do our due diligence and decide for ourselves what plane is going to suit us best and what's going to fit our expectations the best, I guess. The set of WAG Aero plans are a good buildable set of plans. If I get back to building that, I'm going at that with the idea that we'll use any support available from probably the Cub forums more than the WAG Aero forums. There's support out there in that manner for the WAG Aero Sport Trainer, but I'm not really, as a scratch builder, expecting a whole lot of support. The Midget Mustang, as I've said before, I think it's a very good fit for me to build down the road, but I do that with the idea in mind that there is no builder support for it. It's a scratch built aircraft. The only support I'm going to find is through some of the builders groups and individuals who have built, are building, or have built that aircraft. The Zenith series of airplanes is a little bit different. Zenith has established it very well. I think Zenith's a company that's going to be around for a long time. I think their plans are very good, and I think the documentation is very good. Are their plans perfect? No, they're probably not. But I haven't seen anybody's plans that are really a perfect set of plans, so that does not really concern me. We just want to be very careful about what aircraft we start building and make sure it's going to suit our needs for the way we want to build it. From Zenith, we can get kits, we can buy all the components, we can buy the plans and plans build them, which is the way I prefer to build. I like to scratch build stuff. It's just my preferred method. That's part of the pleasure that I get out of this hobby. So just be aware of what you expect from the plan supplier or the aircraft supplier. I think, and I've covered my last little video, I covered how I felt about revisions, and I think up to a certain point, yes, we want the latest revisions, but I don't think they're absolutely necessary. My feelings about the plans manufacturer or the kit manufacturer's responsibilities to provide us with revisions, I don't necessarily think that's true. I think that if there's a safety issue yes, we need to be informed of that. If something becomes apparent there, why, yes, I feel that the factory has a responsibility to share that information with us. Should they be required to provide us with the latest revisions? I don't think so. I think when we laid down our money, we should have made an informed decision that that was the aircraft that we wanted to build. And I think when we bought those plans, we paid for the latest editions available at that time. So if we get revisions after that, or if we get updates or that type of thing, I really kind of feel that's by the graciousness of the plan supplier. I don't think they're obligated in any way, shape, or form to say, here's the latest set of plans that we're offering now. If I go into my cell phone provider and say, I want the latest and greatest Apple iPhone that you've got, and they sell it to me, and 2 weeks later, why the newest, latest, and greatest Apple iPhone comes out, if I walk back into that cell phone provider and say, oh, you sold me this one last week, but it's not the newest one, you should give me a new one, what do you think they're going to tell me? So we're not really entitled to everything we think we're entitled to all the time. And as builders, the plans, and I don't care whose plans they are, I don't care if they're the plans I've got here or anybody else's plans, my intent is to build an airplane. So I'm going to take what I've got in those plans, and I'm going to look at them and hopefully be intelligent enough to say, if I shorten this up here and I do this here, they're going to go together as the way they're intended to go together. If I take the plans, and if I take my 701 plans and blindly cut to those dimensions, I can pretty much guarantee you that they're not going to go together the way they're supposed to, because there's probably some errors in the plans themselves. There are tolerances that I'm going to build up when I start cutting material for them, and bend radiuses are going to be different, and seam allowances and all that good stuff that we have to take into consideration as scratch builders to make those parts fit together the way they're supposed to. If we want something that's plug and play and be able to look at that and say, yep, I'm going to take this one and put it together, then we're better off buying a kit than trying to blindly go along and hold the manufacturer responsible for us not being able to build that aircraft. If we're buying a kit, then I think it's a little more of an obligation of the kit supplier to make sure that those parts fit together right. If we've got rivet holes that don't line up and flanges that don't fit in where they're supposed to and everything, that's the kit manufacturer's, I think, obligation to make sure that we have the proper parts that do fit together. So if we've started buying a kit, last year, and this year the next component kit that we get to assemble to that first kit we've already bought, if it doesn't fit, then yes, the manufacturer has an obligation to make that right if they've made changes through them to improve their production process or whatever the case may be. But if it's plans that they've sold, that's our responsibility. We've accepted that challenge to make those work right. So that's my little spiel on that. Hopefully that will give you a little more food for thought about how you want to approach the airplane that you want to build or the airplane that you're building. So the goal, as far as I'm concerned, is to have a flying aircraft when we're done. That's the prize at the end here. So the idea of things not fitting right, parts not fitting the way they're supposed to if we plans built them. So what we need to do is just make sure that the parts we build fit together, and the plans are a guide for us. That's a starting point. That's where we're beginning this little journey, is by buying a set of plans. So we lay down our money, we buy what we think we want to build, and we move forward from there. So hopefully that'll at least give you a little bit of food for thought and help you make a little more informed decision about either what you want to build or how you're working on your project now. So anyway, guys, thanks for taking the time to watch.